welcome. Can you introduce yourself and tell us how you got to where you are now?
Well, my name is Steve Popoola, and I'm based in the United Kingdom. I work in a fintech company in London. And somewhere along the line, I started working on integrations, financial integrations, and so on. And came across Twilio. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started using Twilio for some of our solutions. And I think during the period, I got in touch with a couple of Twilions, and I was invited to apply to be a Twilio Champion. And here I am today.
Nice. Well, we're happy you're here, and you made it all the way over across the pond to join us at Signal.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Steve, what was the most impactful thing you built with Twilio recently, and was there an aha moment as you were building it?
Yeah, so I would say I've used Twilio on a number of projects. Apart from my current role, I also spend a lot of time consulting with mostly startups. I attend a number of events where you have investors and founders, and, quite naturally, some of them, knowing that, I'm a lead architect and software engineering manager, kind of come to me to say, we're trying to build this stuff and we need some help. And one of the cool things that I've kind of used Twilio to do is actually for audit trail, which is kind of, you would wonder how would you use audit trail? Now, in this particular scenario, most of the time when you build audit trail, the natural thing to do is to listen to an event and then store that event somewhere. Mm-hmm. But what it does not solve is that the data that is stored is only when it is accessed that somebody will be able to know that something went wrong at a particular point in time. And so what I was able to do was and it was just as simple as plugging in Twilio SMS at some point and then listening to a particular event and then saying, look, if the event has this level of severity, fire off an SMS to the person concerned, and then they are able to react to that situation. Now, it's not something you normally do for an audit trail, but it's something that was needed for this particular situation because it was a critical part of their operations, and someone needed to be alerted that something had gone wrong.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I think anytime you need to reach someone very quickly, SMS is always a great way to do it.
Yeah.
So we're hearing a lot about AI and AI agents and agentic coding. Yeah. How are you using it? What's working, what's not working, and what's kind of fake hype or eye-rolly, do you think?
Well, for me, I do use AI extensively. Because of my role, for instance, I typically use it mostly for PR reviews. I manage quite a number of teams of different sizes, and it will be unrealistic for me to sit down and start going through line by line code written by different people, with different levels of expertise. So I basically use AI as my first line of review to kind of take away like 80% of the bulk of that review. And then the remaining 20% is where I actually eyeball things to really look at what the AI will probably not flag as potential issues. And then also I have my own projects as well. I've just not released yet, but I've just developed a new app, which is going to be released on the App Store pretty soon. And it's not a technical app. It's actually a journaling app.
Okay.
This was me actually building something to force myself to start journaling because it's something that I've not been doing too well in. And so most of the code that I wrote was actually AI driven. But I spent most of that actually making sure that it was properly spec'd and also making sure that it does exactly what I want it to do. So yeah, it's mainly that, PRs, my on-site projects. I've also built it's not a database management system, but it's more like a wrapper.
Okay.
For an interface to query databases. And,
nice.
This came about because one of the teams that I was working with, the business arm said they wanted access to the database. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. The worst thing that you want to do is to give a business person access to the database and then they drop it, So I thought, okay, what do you really want? And they said, all we just want is just run queries. And I said, okay, no problem. So I built an interface for them. And, so with that, and, I was able to do that pretty quickly using, tools like Cloud Code and so on like that. So it's been really part of my development process. In terms of where AI is, in my opinion, I think it's still evolving. I think there is still so much ground to cover in terms of what we can potentially use AI for. In terms of things that I don't think are working well, I think for me personally, it's the hype, the way everyone kind of jumps in and, say, oh, yes, we want to introduce AI. I've been in conversation with a CEO of one of the teams that I've been working with, and he said, oh, we want to use AI. And my question is, what do you want to use AI for?
Right.
And I couldn't get an answer. I couldn't get an answer to that. So, we want to use AI because everyone's using AI and we don't want to be left behind. And I'm like, no, you don't start with, we want to use AI. You start with, we have a problem to solve. And then from there, we can now say, okay, AI can solve this problem. And sometimes it might not even have to do with AI. It might just be you using your own brain to figure out the solution to the problem. And in terms of even people building, and I'm sure you've seen this. So you've got people who build wrappers around ChatGPT and they tell you that it's an AI agent, but it's not an AI agent because when you look at, when you define what an AI agent is, an AI agent should have memory. An AI agent should be able to take an action. And an AI agent should be able to have some level of reasoning. But if all your so-called AI agent is doing is passing on messages to, to ChatGPT to respond to the user, then it's not really, it's pretty much just an advanced widget as far as I'm concerned. And then obviously, I think that some aspects of the AI bubble is going to burst at some point. It might not be, but this is just my own personal feeling. And that part that I think is going to burst is, I think at some point, there's going to be kind of like a specialization of AI that is going to emerge, because right now it's kind of general. And that's why everyone's kind of jumping on it. But I think at some point, you're going to have specialized AI specific to certain things. And you're going to need people who are knowledgeable in those areas to be able to use AI for that purpose. And so what would happen is that maybe you're going to have this general AI use, but then you're not going to have all these specialist AI usages where the bar is going to be higher than the normal kind of usage. And that's the trend where I think AI is really going to get to at some point. I don't know exactly how it works, but I've heard a little bit about post-training. Do you know what that is, or have you heard about it? I feel like that's kind of a way where it's like you take the best of you essentially take the best of like what's going on with the big LLM and you put a little bit of that domain-specific knowledge. And it's going to be there. But I totally agree. I think like at some point, just the same way that you don't have a lot of people running around who are perfect generalists that do everything. People specialize a little bit. And so I think you're definitely going to have some AIs that do that too. Definitely. What's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody getting started building AI with AI and customer engagement? I mean, I think for me personally, what I would say is that don't start with AI. That's what I would say. I would say Don't start with AI, start with your customer. Understand what your customer needs. Look at what would bring confusion to your customer or where your customer will get stuck. And then when you understand that, then you can plug in AI to solve that problem. Because what's happening is that the reverse is often the case. People just think about, oh, I want to build an app or I want to build something, and they chuck all that knowledge into AI and AI just builds. But actually the reverse should be the case. The reverse should be, who are my customers? What do they need? When I have built, what could be the potential areas where they might get stuck or they might not know what's going on? You know, a typical use case could be, okay, now I'm built, the service is there, I've plugged in a payment interface. How will my customers know that they've paid? Or if there's an approval process, how will they know that what they have requested has been approved? So maybe that's the point where you plug in Twilio to notify them, or plug in something else, or maybe even put in a voice integration where they can say, oh, hi, I've just made a payment. Can you tell me what the status of my payment is? And so on like that. And you can only think of all those things when you start first with the customer. And then every other thing, you can apply whatever it is that you want to apply to that.
I think that's a great answer. I wish everybody thought of the customer first. We would live in a better world.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for all these insightful answers.
Thank you very much.